The Cardinals have a conundrum on their hands, but a good one. And is the Arizona Cardinals organization becoming more and more attractive as an organization for players to play for? Weird, right? Let's discuss.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Welcome in, Locked On Cardinals. Alex Clancy here. Follow me on Twitter at Locked On AZ Cards for the time being. Elon still got me locked out of Clancy's Corner. Please go to the YouTube channel, search Locked On Arizona Cardinals. Hit that subscribe button. Turn notifications on. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen, free wherever you get your podcast, and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. My dear friend, and now dare I say friend of the show, I mean, I think this is the third time, so we can put you in my own ring of honor, name pending. Tyler Drake, Arizona Sports, does great work over there at TDrake4Sports on Twitter. Tyler, thanks for joining me, dude. I appreciate it.
No problem. Happy to join as always.
So this is the time before the draft where you can't talk about the draft every day, but you have to talk about the draft every day, but you have to talk about different angles. And what I've been trying to do is I actually got called out in my YouTube comments for talking about the same thing every day. And I did a couple shows last week. One was 3 things we know about the Arizona Cardinals and 3 things we don't know about the Arizona Cardinals. And there were varying things, but in that light, that's kind of where I want to guide this first conversation. So we know the draft is up. 3 first-round picks from Minnesota. Is it going to be New England? Is it going to be New England? Is it going to be the Cardinals? Is it going to be my crazy, idiotic thing that I said about the trade back and the trade up? No. But all that considered, the Arizona Cardinals just need to make the right decision for their path. Not what other teams have done. This is a very fragile ecosystem. Kind of talk me through your thought process, what we do know and what may be the best decision for the Cardinals come a week from tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to sound really simple, man, but I think what we do know is that there is a desperate need for a wide receiver, a number 1 wide receiver on this team. And everything Jonathan Gannon has preached since he's got to town, paying for the price of admission, and that is, your versatility, your adaptability, your violence, your team first mentality. It's just everything that he preaches and wants just seems like that is everything that Marvin Harrison Jr., that type of player is. So in my opinion, man, I just think that is the move that should be made. He checks all the boxes. You have that Hall of Fame pedigree from his dad, Marvin Harrison. So just on that alone, you need a number 1 guy. And obviously, if it's not Marvin, they could figure out a way to trade down, get a Rome, get a Malik. You still solve that. You check a box for sure. But the one big thing that I know at least is that this team has to leave the draft with a number 1 wide receiver, or at least a guy who can take that mantle in a short-term, length of time.
See, you sneaky rascal just threw that in there like, oh, they could trade back with the Giants. Here's the thing. For me, even at 11, say even if they were to trade back to 11 with Minnesota, Brian Thomas Jr., wherever the hell it would be at 11, that's too close. If you're going to draft a wide receiver, just draft one. Yeah. Draft the guy at 4, and that's where I'm at. Peter Schrager, one of the best. I call him the Ted Lasso of media members. I feel like he is. Everybody loves him.
That's a good one.
His mock drafts are the best. He doesn't have his Cliff Kingsbury insight like he had the last handful of years what the Cardinals were going to pick. And I think that's better. But he had the Cardinals trading back. This came out yesterday. The Cardinals trading back to 6, getting a future second, a 2024 third, and drafting a receiver. It's too close. Draft Marvin Harrison Jr. Like, when you're at that point, is that kind of splitting hairs and getting too cute?
No, I think you just don't just do it. Yeah, I think it's what Dan Orlovsky said. I think that's who said it. Don't get cute, just do it. Yeah. And as much as you can say, don't agree with Dan Orlovsky's opinions, whatever, but that right there is 150% the plan of what should happen. And obviously, we all know Monty loves to wheel and deal in picks. We only saw that last year, but from how he did it, you can tell he's got a knack for doing that. And I don't want to take anything away from him, stockpiling picks in the future and showing that off once again. But you've got to at one point use these picks.
Yeah.
You can't just keep stockpiling. You're eventually going to run out of a job because you're not translating that into talent. So I think now, and we even talked to him. The last time we got to speak with him, he said, we're on to the next phase of this thing. The next phase, I think, is not, hey, let's win 2 more games. The next phase is trying to break in as a wild card team, in my opinion, and landing a guy like Marvin, a Rome, a Malik, any of those guys, and then using that other first-round pick and that other draft capital to get a defender of some sort, cornerback, pass rusher up high. That's the vision that I see for this team that could really jumpstart things even more than what we saw this last year.
Tyler Drake, Arizona Sports, joining me, Locked on Cardinals, your team every day. Yeah, because that's the thing. It's like my realization, I did it all over this weekend. I was like, what am I going to choose? Monday, I will choose my side, and I will stay there. And I've been on the other side. I've been on the trade back, and then trade up with Atlanta, draft the last receiver there because there's probably going to be one there. That was my favorite one. But when it comes down to it, they've got 16 picks in the next 2 drafts outside of the one they have at 4. And it's like, they don't need to get younger anymore.
No.
Like the hard reset happened so much more quickly than everybody expected. And it looks so much better than everybody expected last year. Obviously, anybody that watched football, obviously this is a different regime, different way of approaching the game. You don't need to get younger. And you could use a bevy of those picks, even in 2025. I'm trying to unlock people's thoughts here. Use 2025 picks if you want to move back up. You don't need them nearly as much as you did the last 7 years where they were devoid of them. And then this year is going to be such a massive year to stockpile draft, young players that utilizing next year's draft for this year, if you want to get weird, maybe the better option than trading back. Agreed?
Yeah. Yeah, I just think right now, man, there's a batch of guys in this draft class that can really move the needle. I mean, I think of, the Terrion Arnolds, I think the Dallas Turners, I think of all those wide receivers, man. There's just too many guys that you can hit on this draft to where you can't just move the needle into next year. So I'm right there with you, man. Like, I just think it's go time. Like, they really do. I think, I would say owner Michael Bidwell liked what he saw last year from a culture standpoint inside the locker room, but I know that dude's probably anxious to get back into the playoffs at some point. And the last time they were in the playoffs, we all saw how dreadful that was. So it's not only getting to the playoffs, it's acting like you should be there. So, I mean, obviously that's the next step. They were competitive when Kyler came back. They were competitive when Kyler wasn't there too at times. So what can that aspect really do to really take that to the next step? And having a guy like Marvin, a guy like Rome, a guy like Malik that can just get down the field and be that big guy that, quite frankly, Kyler hasn't had the past couple of years, could go a really long way in just boosting the offense. You get one of those defenders, actually in the first 2 rounds, there's good enough guys that can really move the needle. And like you said, man, they can't keep getting younger. They've got to start getting some more older guys, older vets. So I think that's really the next step. And it might have to be next free agency, but I think that's when you go and you get that lockdown corner. You get that, elite pass rusher that's done it before. And obviously they're still going to be in a rotation. That's how they want to do things. They want to be team first. But that's really my next step for what I see this team doing.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're adding top flight talent as an elevator and not because of need, that's where you can maximize on free agency and overspend. If your team is already ready and now you just need that shining star to take it to the next level, I think you're right. I think 2025 is just going to be the most massive offseason maybe in the history of this organization. We say that a lot, but this is the first time in a long time you see a path. Okay, follow these steps. Everything is in its place. If he wanted to, he would. Michael Bidwell finally wanted to, so he did. And now they've got some sort of, rational and functionality from the top down. And it's just going to be fun to watch. Now, the most important piece is Kyler Murray. Yep. Kyler Murray had maybe the most introspective season last year, even though he only played a handful of games. We'll discuss what I mean. I'll get Tyler's thoughts, Tyler Drake, Arizona Sports, joining me. And then some of the players spoke, man. This is feeling different already. And, buckle up. We deserve it. Everybody deserves it after the last handful of years. Locked on Cardinals, your team every day. This episode of Locked on Cardinals is brought to you by, wait for it, LinkedIn. So we've talked about LinkedIn a lot on the show and on the Locked On Podcast Network. And I have a soft spot for LinkedIn. I've went on countless interviews with LinkedIn. Okay. And if you're looking to find people like me at that time, LinkedIn isn't just a job board. Okay. It helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even though, even those who aren't actively looking for a new job. And if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, listen to these numbers. 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats that you may not have time or resources to hire. It's constantly finding ways to make the process easier. And they even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and quicker. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. Tyler Drake, Arizona Sports, friend of the show, joining me here on a beautiful Wednesday. We are 8 days away, man. What we were talking like what seemed like yesterday, man. Bilal Nichols and Justin Jones, those are the big signings. And then now, right after that Jonah Williams signing, it was like, okay, what was that? Where the hell did that come from? And then introductory press conference. Jonah Williams saying, I've been wanting to play with Kyler Murray. I've been watching Kyler Murray. Tyler, listen, I'm to a fault. It was more Cliff hindering Kyler Murray than Kyler Murray's fault. It wasn't 100% one way or the other, and Kyler Murray's grown up more in the last 12 months than he had in the first 3 years combined. And the introspection I was talking about before the break, it's called a tease, ladies and gentlemen, was his Instagram stories. It's not something that I jump to when it comes to athletes. I don't care. Live your life, show what you want, don't show what you want. But Kyler Murray showed nothing. And the fact that he's showing stuff, like whether it be donating cans or playing with his dog or whatever the hell it is, you start to see him as a human being. And I think that was a very calculated way of reintroducing himself as QB1 and then coming in. And they were, what, top 5 offensive efficiency the last 4 weeks of the year when he came back?
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, and then you got to look at the run game too, man. Everything that they wanted to do out of the offense, Kyler really took it to the next level. And it wasn't so much about, oh man, he's throwing for 400 yards a game. No, he was operating within the means of the offense and a structured offense, not something where it's like, go play some backyard football. It was legit. This is what we want to do. Change your footwork. Do this. We are going to make the fundamentals be something that is just a go-to for you. And I think we're seeing it. And obviously there's still ways to go. This offseason could be the biggest one for Kyler, just on the fact of he gets a full offseason. He's not worried about rehabbing. He's back in the building. He's with his teammates and working out on the side. You know, Trey McBride spoke volumes of just him getting with guys and already getting back and just working on things throughout the offseason and just seeing the work ethic that he's putting in. And yeah, man, you can tell he's more comfortable. And I think that's the big thing too, is that everyone's on the same page. He's not going to go out there because it's going to be the big soundbite of the year if he goes out there and says, yeah, the old regime, I couldn't do it with them. Right. Obviously, that he's not going to come out there and say that. But you can tell there is just so much more. He's so much more in lockstep than the guys that drafted him in 2019 in just the one season they've had together. So I think the sky's the limit for this offense with him too. And as much more as he gets comfortable with, Petzing and Woolfolk, it's just going to be the sky. Like I said, sky's the limit, man. And if James Conner can be exactly who James Conner is, like we all know what he can do, this offense can be really, really dangerous. But like I said, I'm going to be a broken record. You got to have a wide receiver to make it all go. Number one big dude to catch the ball.
Yeah. And you said it right. You don't have to throw for 400 yards and have 4 total touchdowns to make an impact. If he's 19 for 24 for 200 yards and a touchdown a game and they win 10 games, he doesn't have that's correct. And people need to be reminded of that more. It's just, you don't need the Madden on easy numbers to make an impact, especially with what's supposed to be a boring run-first play-action offense, which is what we saw. And then Kyler Murray showing the flair that Josh Dobbs showed in the first handful of weeks last year, set and forget. For Kyler Murray specifically, I talked about this a little bit yesterday. I want to get your thoughts. How important do you think it is? And while it's important, let's get deeper than that a quarterback has a true wide receiver one for a chunk of seasons and not just, this offense is going to work for anybody. DeAndre Hopkins balled out his first year. Mm-hmm. They underutilized him and he had, over 100 catches. He could have had 2,000 yards receiving, 15 touches. He could have had that, but Cliff Kingsbury's offense was terrible. Talk to me about if they drafted Marvin Harrison Jr., how that would set just this runway of cohesion and rapport and just complete elevation of both the wide receiver and quarterback's games.
Yeah, I think that's the missing link, man. You need that consistent presence. And at times, Hollywood Brown showed you that. But I think height was an issue. I think, just inconsistency, injury, that all played a part. Whereas you're getting one of these game changers who should turn it on from game one, day one. It's not only going to open up the door for Kyler and for whoever's going to be catching the ball on the other side. It's going to open the door up for even more for Trey McBride. Yeah. Like, let's be real. If you've got a number one threat all the time, there's going to be more eyes over there. Trey McBride is when we talk to him, he's focusing on, run blocking, getting off and looking like he's running a route even when he's blocking, and he's going to be the play action guy. Like, Trey McBride is going to absolutely feast, and they need that to happen. But in turn, that's going to pull people away. And then it's going to be mismatch central when it comes to the big dude on the outside or this dude who can hurdle people as a tight end on the inside. That's the part that I'm really excited to see more than anything else, is how they're going to utilize these two guys to really make a secondary pay.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Or have a non-stacked box and let James Conner and then RB2, whoever that's going to be, which is a massive position of need still. Whether it be Trey Benson in the third round, or if they want to go lighter and go Bucky Irving, they need an RB2. James Conner, in my opinion at least, James Conner needs to be 65% of the touches, max. Yeah. If you want him to play 17 weeks, he's not in that LeGarrette Blount role yet, but that's what I've been talking the last couple of years. He needs to – people need to forget that he was drafted by the Steelers.
Yep. He
needs to be an Arizona Cardinal for the next 5 years, and he can play. He's only 28. And if he takes care of his body like he does, but you're right, like, it's fascinating. And we'll pivot to some of the things that the guys said in more depth, Kyzir went and Trey McBride, et cetera, in the next segment. But when you look at the last, Super Bowl winners, so Kansas City did it without a run game, okay, because they had Tyreek Hill and they had Travis Kelce. They had an okay defense. Mm-hmm. Second time, it was all run, Travis Kelce, and defense, okay? Mm-hmm. Lamar Jackson in Baltimore, it's always run first. It's run first. They get there by the run, and then they falter because they don't have the pass game in the playoffs. The Cardinals setting up, if they were to draft Marvin Harrison Jr., things were to work out, like people who say in the comments, oh, it's just hypotheticals. Should we just shut down sports media?
Yeah, right.
Because that's all this is. We can talk about it after.
Yeah.
The Cardinals, Marvin Harrison Jr., James Conner, and Trey McBride is a trifecta you don't see very often, especially with a quarterback like Kyler Murray, to be able to do all of it. And if the defense can catch up, I mean, this could be truly sustained success from the Arizona Cardinals. And I think that's something that people kind of are like, oh, we'll see. It's still the Cardinals. It's still the Cardinals. Do you see that? Or are we too close wishing this into existence that that'll happen? Or do you, like, you're at practice, you're in press conferences?
No, I really do think this is the beginning of having that sustained success. And I'll just go back to the free agent, because yes, were the names flashy? They were flashier than they were the year before. You can tell there was and nothing to take away from those guys, but Kyzir White was by far their biggest signing two off seasons ago. This last offseason, you can really make a case for Sean Murphy-Bunting, Justin Jones, Bilal Powell. Like, all of these guys are starting caliber guys. Mac Wilson Sr., like, they can easily get plugged in and go. You couldn't say that last offseason. You could say that with Kyzir. That was about it. This is the next step. And all these guys, they're the same person. They really are. It's the craziest thing. And I know, obviously, cliches are everywhere. You want to play for the guy next to you, but it just generally feels like these guys go another level because they know they're playing for the guy next to them, and they know the guy next to them is playing for them. And that starts with the coaching staff. That starts with Monty. That starts with all of those guys first. And then the players go from there. So I really think this is the next step. And you've got to think about the guys that are here. Kyzir White should be an extension. James Conner should be an extension. Like you said, like those guys, even Michael Carter. I think they do have an RB2 in Michael Carter. I think if you could extend him on a cheap deal, that'd be great too, because you have that room solidified. Amari DeMarcado, it's there. I think that running back room is better than a lot of people think. And it's just about finding these pieces that are going to mix in. And again, it's not about blowing off these numbers and having MVP type seasons. It's about playing within what this team needs to get to that next level. And everyone, you could tell, has bought it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Don't compare the Cardinals' journey to others. Well, most players play for each other. What are you talking about? That wasn't this. The level of dysfunctionality that this organization had in their loins pretty much since Chicago. Mm-hmm. is very, very difficult to unravel, let alone in less than 18 months, which is what we're most likely witnessing. So I know you have Stockholm Syndrome. Most of you who have been fans for a long time, try to just see, you know what, maybe this is different. Maybe this is. And it's not because it's spewed upon us by the politicians that were in the front office. Watch it. There's proof. And it's fascinating. Are the Cardinals now going to become an attractive destination? I'm going to talk to Tyler Drake from Arizona Sports about what some of the players said, Kyzir White, namely about Mac Wilson and them already having some fire between the two of them and Trey McBride, because Trey McBride is even with Marvin Harrison Jr. there, the most important non-quarterback offensive player for the Cardinals for so many different reasons. We'll discuss it all next. Locked On Cardinals, your team. Every day I need to throw a lozenge. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by Monopoly Go. So I don't know if you know this. I've been told I'm a competitive person. I don't know. You think that's true? It's true. Okay, well, I have a competitive side. We all do. And my competitive side is a big fan of Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great twist of Monopoly where you play on not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you big money. But the best part is messing with my friends. I can charge them rent on the iconic properties, just like classic Monopoly. But now I can also rob their vaults of riches for myself. And the leaderboards show me who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is. But it's not just my competitive side that loves it. You can team up with friends and people all around the world in time tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get in the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go now, free on the App Store or Google Play. I mean, sometimes I wish I could do an hour. And just so my trick is, Tyler Drake of Arizona Sports, is I tell people I need him for 20 minutes. I take him for 30. We're boys now, so I just tell you what it's going to be. And I asked, like, can you do another segment? You got time, right? And people have to say yes, which is awesome. But yeah, I wish I could do an hour because, like, this is where the elevated conversations happen. The draft, okay. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Is it going to happen before the draft? We don't know. Let's not prognosticate. It's going to happen or it's not. But what Monti Ossenfort is going to decide is what's the best path for this team. And I think everybody trusts him implicitly right away. The players coming over, whether it's Kyzir White last year, Trey McBride coming to his own last year, or the new guys, Jonah Williams, Bilal Nichols, Justin Jones, Mac Wilson, Jonah Williams. I already said Jonah Williams. They all came in. DJ Dallas was probably my favorite. I think it was your clip where he's like, I want to be an Arizona Cardinal, man. It's like, you don't hear that.
Yeah. Stars aligned. The stars aligned to come to Arizona.
Stars aligned to come to Arizona, and it's not because he's getting 1 year, $7 million because he went to Arizona State like Terrell Suggs did. This is not pay to play. This is because they want to come here. Now, quickly, talk to me about some of the takeaways when they spoke to the media for the first time in a while earlier or late last week. Well, what was that like?
Yeah. I mean, so basically, you can just tell, man, there's excitement. It's strength and conditioning program. Like, let's be honest, it's nothing. There's no frills attached. Training camp is about the most glamorous thing in the offseason. This is probably one of the least glamorous outside of maybe voluntary OTAs. But everyone's jacked up. Everyone walked in with a smile ready to go. I mean, Kyzir even cracked a couple smiles, and that dude just wants to go hit somebody 24/7, and that's why he's him. But, yeah, it was great. You could just tell. Everyone was happy. A lot of people, I mean, Kyzir said it too, a ton of people showed up for this voluntary program. And that alone, I think you could say a lot. I saw Buda Baker in a couple of pictures, so he was there, so no worries there right now. But it's just kind of those things. It's the little tiny things. It's hearing Trey McBride, like a middle school kid who is going to play his first football game with coaches from last year, like from Pee Wee football, and how he's just so excited to play with this coaching staff again and really improve upon everything that he did last year. And really, he talked about at the Atlanta game when him and Kyler couldn't connect on the interception. He said that still gets him. He wants to make sure that's not a thing. And that was one thing I think that they worked on throughout the offseason is that better communication. But it's just different, man. It just feels different. I feel like in past years, it was kind of, check the box thing for these guys. Now it's Trey McBride starts the conversation instead of us. He's like, hey, I'm so happy to be here, guys. How you doing? It's great to see you. I'm ready to go. It's been great. Kyler's awesome. It's this, and this. And you've got Kyzir. Like, yeah, everybody's ready to go, man. Like everyone's ready to go. It's not like oh, hey, nice to meet you. It's no, there's stuff we've got to accomplish. And that was the thing too from Gannon, man, is he really talked about, he's not a believer in momentum. He's not a believer in picking up where you left off. He's about building things back up year after year. It's like, yeah, there's good things you can take from last season. 4-13 season, though, at the end of the day is disappointing. But you take those building blocks, you let the players once again take over even sooner than they did last year, and you're going to see a different product on the field. Off the field, I think we're going to see a lot of the same, a lot of this camaraderie, team first mentality. But on the field, I think it's going to translate to more wins moving forward.
Yeah. Drew Petzing is a name that I'm fully in the camp the last couple of seasons. Pay coordinators who are valuable like head coaches and keep them so they don't move on. Drew Petzing's offense is like, crutch is the wrong word, but this is a fragile ecosystem, and especially until they actually hit over 500 and things are really juicing. Kyler Murray's healthy a whole year. Without that offense last season, they probably pick a number one overall. Easily. It's like that was the training wheels for a team with no talent. And what they're going to be able to elevate that with, that is an offense. I'm a huge proponent of, if you can run an offense in any type of weather, you can win a Super Bowl if you've got the right talent.
Yeah.
And that's something, that offense you can run in cold Chicago, you can run in Arizona during the summer. It doesn't matter. So Drew Petzing plus Kyler Murray in first full year, plus Trey McBride in Kyler Murray's first full year, and then all of the guys are going to draft Michael Wilson, Greg Dortz. Again, we only have 25 minutes. There's so much more to talk about. But can this offense, with everybody bought in like they already are, be that top 5, top 7 offense, improved offensive line, and skill position players in the right spots that have elite capabilities?
I mean,
is that jumping too soon?
No. I honestly, man, and I don't want to seem like I'm jumping too soon, but what did we see last year of that last 4 game stretch? No one was better on the ground than the Cardinals.
Wild.
That's hard to say. I mean, you've got the Baltimores of the world. You've got the Niners of the world. I mean, you've got all these dominant playoff Super Bowl contenders, and the Cardinals, out of everybody, last 4 games of the season, Kyler Murray still getting the rust off. The team not really having a number one guy. It's just, that shows you right there that if a couple more of these pieces hit, the Jonah Williams of the world, I forgot to even give him his flowers, because he should book in that tackle spot at least for this year. If they want to go get a rookie, maybe they do, but at least right now they have their 2 tackles locked in. They're gonna get a wide receiver. These pieces, they should improve exponentially. I mean, crazy to say that, but they really should, especially with what you said with Petzing. He can really use that offense anywhere. It's a one size fits all type deal with Petzing, because it can really impact everywhere in the game. And the biggest thing is they focus on the run. They're traditional. That's the thing, man. You've got to be able to have a good mix of that. And with a guy like Kyler Murray, you can still get creative, still go over the top, but at the end of the day, you have a run defense, run offense, an identity that you can just fall back on at all times. And I don't think you could say that the last couple of years.
They didn't even have a left side of the offensive line the last 4 or 5 weeks of the
exactly
season. So yeah, it's true. Now I'm going to ask you this, because I have to pay off the tease of the damn show that we haven't gotten to yet. Do you see, and that you can say TBD, but do you see the Arizona Cardinals being an attractive place come 2025 for free agents to want to come play here, and not just, they're going to give me the most money like we've seen for the history of the organization?
Yeah, I do. I think you see what happened this offseason, last offseason even. Guys are picking up what this organization's doing. I mean, obviously, and we can even get into the report card thing. Still a ways to go in improving things on that end, but there was improvement made. There was improvement to what the players mentioned more than anything else. So seeing on that point, that's a positive. But I think at the end of the day, you see what Gannon's building, you see what Monti's building, you see that they want to bring in a true football player. They don't want these flashy guys. They want somebody that is just eats, sleeps, and breathes football, will be there, will grind through it. And I think that just makes other people want to come be and show that they can be that guy. Like the Justin Jones and Bilal Nichols of the world. Like those 2 guys are going to sit there and just build off their relationship in the middle of that formation and get everybody else around them better. And that's just going to be a normal day of the week for them. That alone, man, it's so simple, but it's so dynamic of what they're really turning around there.
Yeah. Simple, boring, good.
Yes.
Simple, boring, good, win.
Yep.
I mean, that's like, if I'm speaking caveman, that's what it is. Tyler Drake, Arizona sports reporter at Cardinals Corner. Great podcast. Check them out as well. Have a great interview with Paris Johnson Jr. where he talks about how Marvin wants to be a Cardinal. There's a tease for somebody else's podcast. Not exactly ideal, but go check it out. They do a great job over there at TD Drake, at T Drake for Sports on Twitter. Alex Clancy, Locked on Cardinals. Remember, without you, there is no me. I'll talk to you tomorrow.